Hey, welcome on in, guys. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. Hope you're doing great out there. As we're getting ready for Miami Heat basketball tonight, they're back out on the West Coast, taking on the Golden State Warriors after last night's brutal loss to the Sacramento Kings. Miami Heat back to 500 and what do we got? We got 5 more games on this road trip. So Tyler Hero's questionable going into tonight. But the big news today, this was revealed by one Chris Haynes, who has been doing his Haynes briefs in the middle of all this. I don't think Chris is with any mainstream, but he's very good. I mean, Chris Haynes is as credible as they come. And I believe has gotten, exclusives with Jimmy Butler before, has had good stuff with Jimmy Butler before. So this kind of snowballed a lot of people confirming what was very interesting. And that was that Jimmy Butler has been informing teams that they should not trade for him, or that people have been informed not to trade for Jimmy Butler. This was a story that was even confirmed by Anthony Chiang of the Miami Herald, that Memphis in particular was one of those teams that was told, do not trade for me. Do not trade for Jimmy Butler. And it was interesting because there was a lot of odds movement towards the Memphis Grizzlies. We had done the fun connections of the whole Justin Timberlake thing. But apparently the Memphis Grizzlies were told, hey, not interested in being traded to you. And then I think it was Kevin O'Connor who had also said that the Bucks were another team that had been told don't trade for Jimmy Butler. And this is all kind of going back to the same thing, which is it really just seems like Jimmy Butler wants to be traded to one team and one team alone, which is, you guessed it, the Phoenix Suns, which of course would fly in the face of the reports that were out there right after Jimmy's joy rant and getting his joy back, which is anywhere but Miami. That was what was put out there. Anywhere but Miami is where Jimmy Butler would play, and apparently that was a short-lived stipulation in the Jimmy Butler saga. And I think that this is all a very interesting thing, because it really does feel like all of this has been a ploy and a play, a long play, a slow play, maybe moves to make it a more drastic play for Jimmy Butler to get his extension. And I think it's interesting from the standpoint of Jimmy Butler and his contract status. I got to assume that the only organization that has given him an absolutely will pay you the extension right away, I got to think like he's not stepping on a court until that extension is signed, because like why be so adamant about that, right? We had heard for so many times that Jimmy Butler was going to opt out no matter what this offseason, right? Well, if you're going to opt out no matter what, like why would he be so interested in going to Phoenix if he was going to opt out? Doesn't really make sense. You would only, I mean, unless you're going to, I guess, opt out and maybe the length of the deals or whatnot, but you could do that with anybody if you're going to opt out. To me, it feels like, no, he wants to go to a place that's going to give him the extension immediately. I don't think Jimmy Butler wants to play till he's 39. I think Jimmy Butler wants to secure another $60 million, and that's it. And I think there's I almost wonder how much faith Jimmy Butler has in his body at this point, because he has gotten banged up. At the end of last year, he was a wreck with everything that had happened with, literally like Kelly Oubre falling on your leg. I think back to that night against the OKC Thunder and the twisting of the ankle, and then all of a sudden this turns into an illness. And everybody swears up and down that the illness is real. I'm sorry, dude. I really don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I just don't buy it. I really don't. I have thought that was either A, a ploy to not play for the Miami Heat, or B, was protecting himself because he had messed up his ankle. Jimmy has bad ankles. And was like, I'm going to be out of this puppy. I'm not risking another minute for the Miami Heat. They're not paying me. I had just played this game against Detroit. I had balled out. We lost. What am I doing wasting games for this? If they're not going to extend me, I'm saving my body for the organization that's going to pay me. And I kind of feel like that's where the snowballing of all this has gone. Because if you're Jimmy Butler, what were the first things we wanted to hear, right? I want to go to a winner. I want to go to a win-now situation. Well, that's line number one told. Maybe you think here on some planet that the Phoenix Suns, who are right now currently with a worse record than the Miami Heat, that you think Jimmy Butler just goes there and switch flips, they're going to be awesome. But as we've seen already with them, with the Booker and Durant, it takes a little bit of getting used to. And everybody thinks, oh, they just need, I know Stephen A. Smith keeps referring to, they need a rough side to them. They need a rough rider. You know, they need somebody who's going to toughen them up a little bit. But dude, nobody on this planet right now can say that a situation, let's just say that the Grizzlies could make this trade and not give up Desmond Bane. Nobody in this planet could say that the Grizzlies in their situation, Jimmy going there, assuming especially if they're able to keep their top three guys with him, is a better situation than what the Suns have going on right now. So what's the difference? Why wouldn't he go to Memphis? Well, because Memphis, I'm just going to guess, is like, yeah, we want you here to win. Don't you want to win? It's like, yeah, I want to win, but I want to secure my bag. And that's what this all kind of comes down to for me, is like, I think this is all about, it's not just that it's all about Jimmy Butler getting his money, because everybody's made that point, but I almost feel like Jimmy Butler's almost holding this out like it's a training camp. Like, I'm not playing basketball and putting myself at risk again until I have another $60 million guaranteed to my name, that I turn my option plus another year, and then I'll be good to go. Because if you were going to opt out, it doesn't make sense, right? Like, if you were going to play out the contract, well, what does it matter where you go? You know, it's going to be the same scenario everywhere else. You can opt out, and teams would have your bird rights, and all that stuff would, if they wanted to sign you. And that was the initial word that we had. Well, that doesn't seem to be true. Then we were told Jimmy Butler wants to go to a winner. Okay, well, seems like he wants to go to a team that's 10, 11 places behind in the standings from another team that was interested in him. And it just seems to me the reason why the Suns have been this team the entire time. That dude has a handshake, wink, agreement that as soon as that trade is done, he is getting that extra money, and then he'll play basketball. Because he's not going to put himself at risk to get hurt and have a Kelly Oubre fall on his leg, or have another ankle roll, and have another person ask about his durability, his question. That's what this all feels like right now. This isn't about winning. This isn't about any of that stuff. It's how does he secure that extra money right now, as soon as possible. That's the only reason why the Suns are his only choice, because I got to think that him and his agent have that handshake agreement. Have that if it can happen. Now, the interesting thing on all of this is, well, what if the Miami Heat still don't want to trade Bradley Beal, right? Like, where do we go if, because Bradley Beal said this last night, and it was very true, I hold the cards, not Jimmy Butler. I hold the cards because I have to waive my no trade clause. And if the Miami Heat don't want him, the report was, I believe it was is it John or Josh Gambadoro, the guy from Phoenix. He had said that Beal would waive his no trade, and he was talking yesterday that there was Jimmy buzz to Milwaukee and Memphis, and it kind of felt like, based on betting market, it felt like maybe something was happening. Because why now does this come out here? Why do we go from anywhere but Miami to no Memphis, no Milwaukee all of a sudden? Is that just Jimmy playing games because he's petty? Or does it come back to the money? Does it come back to, well, they're not guaranteeing me. I don't have an agreement. You know, they just want me to play it out. Well, then you might be in a better situation, because maybe you have a better chance to win a championship. Maybe you can prove that you're worth an extension, or you can just get what's been told that you will get. Because again, the Suns don't really have a risk of money here. The Suns are already in this financial situation. they have to pay Bradley Beal. Go look at the numbers. Basically, what they're paying Bradley Beal for with this year and the next 2 years is almost identical to what they would have to pay Jimmy Butler on an extension. And they already know this is a rudderless ship. It's not going anywhere. The Suns have no risk. They really don't. Their only risk is, I guess, pissing off Bradley Beal, and they're trying to bully him and bench him and make his life a living hell. There's an agent front office connection, father-son, from Bradley Beal's agent to the Suns front office to trying to get Bradley Beal to potentially waive his no-trade clause. So, but he says Bradley Beal says that he holds the cards, and Josh Gambodoros or John Gambodoros, I forget, Gambo, I know that goes by Gambo on it. He said it was the Heat, the Nuggets, and the 2 LA teams. Those are the teams that he would waive his no trade for. So, can those teams, so those are the teams, so that's 3 teams basically that you could do a 3-teamer with for Bradley Beal, for him to end up on Denver, the Clippers, or the Lakers. Now, I haven't done the trade mechanisms to know what that is, because a lot of what I've seen with Bradley Beal is a lot of, send him to Detroit, send him to Washington, send him to some bullhunk team that he doesn't really want to go to, dude. That's why he's like, I hold the cards. It's a very complex situation. The interesting thing from if it doesn't work out is where do the Heat and Jimmy then go from there? Because if Jimmy doesn't get the trade, we're about a month away from the trade deadline. If he doesn't get the trade, then what is his play? Because a lot of people have said, I've seen a lot of this. Well, his leverage is that he could opt out. And I'm thinking to myself, that ain't leverage for him. Because right now, he doesn't want to go into the market. That's very, very clear. If Jimmy Butler wanted to go into the market, then what is the holdup of any team that you want to go to? Oh, I'm not going to sign there long term? That's the case? No. The leverage Jimmy Butler has, to be honest with you, is on the Heat that I'll opt in. That is the leverage that Jimmy Butler has. I'm going to Chris Bosh your ass, okay? And I don't mean because I know Chris Bosh had real health problems, but while that was all going on and Chris Bosh was getting ruled out, the Heat basically had to sit here with a max cap space number on their books for a couple of years and couldn't make moves because Chris Bosh was either disputing or wasn't career ending, or all of this stuff was going on. And, part of the tension was the Heat, like he thought the Heat were kind of doing this to get him off the books. And, the Heat were saying here, like, no, we don't have any reputable doctor that thinks you can play basketball or without being at risk of getting sick again. So the Heat have been in a position where they've had a max contract on the books that was essentially unplayable. To me, Jimmy's leverage play is not that he can opt out and go wherever he wants. Like, that's what the Heat are banking on. The Heat, the leverage play to the Heat, if they can't find a trade, is, no, I'm going to opt in, and then you'll have to trade me somewhere and then take on, I don't know, Bradley Beal for next year. Whatever. That, to me, is Jimmy's leverage play. I don't really think the opt-out is his leverage play. His leverage play is to make this another hellacious standoff with Miami yet again in the summer. And, I guess Miami's only situation at that point is if they're in tank mode, I guess you get, $90 million to go off the books the next year. So that would be the summer of 2026, because Terry would be done, Duncan would be done, Jimmy would be done. So you'd have that situation, and I know that's supposed to be a pretty fruitful class, but nobody in that front office wants to go through this again. So it really is on, can they convince? Because, all right, let's get down to it. Jimmy, well played. You've nuked the entire market other than the Phoenix Suns. Fine. Can anybody convince Bradley Beal to go anywhere? Because he said, I hold the cards. And I don't know. I don't think that sounds like a very easy thing. Unless there's a real sweetener from the agent and the Sun between the Suns front office and Bartelstein, the agent. I don't know. But this was a very, very fascinating day that kind of revealed the stance of everything of, this isn't about leaving Miami. This is about getting to a place that's already told you, we got you, buddy. We're going to pay you your money as soon as you get here, and you don't even have to worry about free agency.